semi-final on Wednesday. That is Wednesday now, the 26th of March. Can you just take us quickly through the facts as you recall them?
Good evening, Andre. Good evening, panelists. Thanks for having me. You asked me to take you through the facts, but if you would permit me quickly just to say, with Mr. Wellington, that as a member of the organization, ISSA, who stages this premier event, as a member of the core principals who put this event on for students, it's like an event for students by us principals, that, I'm certain, I can speak for myself, I'm certain there are others who are just as embarrassed and disappointed. I guess as we go on in the program, we'll speak a little bit more about other things, but I know it's a little bit more than just equipment that, has put us in this position. But it really does give us pause as it relates to what we do when it comes on to such a premier event, or stages such a premier event. Now, as it relates to Jamal Stephenson, as many of you would be aware, he was initially disqualified because of alleged false start. It was said that his reaction time was seen as excessively fast by virtue of the equipment, which we can now safely say is unreliable. Perhaps we don't want to use the word faulty, if that's not the word, but we can say it is unreliable. And I will also hasten to say that I had a discussion with Mr. Davis regarding this matter, and he did admit.
You have to say who Mr. Davis is.
The meat director. And he did admit that there was something wrong with the equipment. And I did ask him if he knew that something was wrong with the equipment from the beginning, because it's not the Wednesday, it started from day one. Why is it that something was not done? To avert all of this issue now going into the other days. Of course, he was not able to give me an answer really at that point, understandably so, but he did. So there wasn't, any, that is something that wasn't obvious, but was known. So after we found out about the false start, it was like about, I would say almost an hour and a half, or approximately 90 minutes or so after the race. I know
which you, of course, are contending that was unusual.
Which is unusual, because usually what we are accustomed to, in any race, if it's a false start, we are going to, we looking on the race, we're going to hear the starting gun twice. We are accustomed to that within, but of course we are hearing now of a sophisticated system that apparently allows us to have delayed reports, it would seem. So of course it was really strange that we were going to hear, and let me just add that we almost didn't hear it, that he was disqualified almost 2 hours, approximately 90 minutes or 2 hours thereabout after, which would really have been about 30 minutes or so. I mean, these are approximate times before the finals were to be run, and our team moved, of course, to lodge a protest and the appeal. And we were going through that process when, the race went on. And of course, we tried to let them know, myself, members of our team, even our coach, tried to let them know that all the race, something is not right. We are working on something.
You tried to let them know.
We tried to let the starting referee, I'm not sure if I have those terminologies right, but the persons who are down at the starting line to start the race, those persons, we tried to let them know that we have lodged an appeal, we're waiting on some information. Mr. Bennett, as you would probably know, even went on to the track, and of course,
that's a coach,
regrettably,
Coach
CORY Bennett, which of course, regrettably, that is not exactly what we would have wanted, for sure, I'll quickly admit that. But in a bid to...
And for which he got a yellow card.
And for which he got a yellow card, of course.
Yes.
And so, but in a bid to I guess, get justice of some sort, or just to be heard, that was really the
focus.
The motive or the focus or the objective behind all of that. And
but even with that,
what we would have...
The starter continued with the race.
The starter, exactly. Starter probably in retrospect could have said, hold on there, what is happening? Double check, find out what's going on before moving. But it would appear as if no care was given to the circumstance at the time. They just went ahead. But the matter was in appeal while even the race was run and the award ceremony was held. And then, of course, subsequent to all of that, the appeal, the results of the appeal from the jury of appeal came to say that he should be reinstated. But alas, we were told that nothing can be done, and I'm just, summarizing, nothing can be done at this stage because, of course, competition rules dictate that once a medal ceremony has taken place and...
Let me read, not to cut you, Principal Wilson, but let me read the actual script handed down by the meet manager, Mr. Anthony Davis. Advisory to the coach management team of Calabar High School. The jury of appeal ruled to overturn the referee's decision and reinstate Jamal Stephenson in the Class 1 100-meter semifinal race. However, it is important to note that at the time the decision was handed down, the race and medal ceremony had already been completed. According to the World Athletics rule, once medals have been presented for an event, no further action can be taken regarding the results of that event. Specifically, Technical Rule 8.9 states that the medal ceremony marks the conclusion of the event, and any disputes or protests must be resolved prior to this point, as the medal ceremony signifies the official end of the event and no subsequent changes or appeals are permitted after this ceremony. Upon reviewing the process, officials consulted the World Athletics for guidance on how to proceed and received the following advice. The time recorded by Stephenson in his semifinal is valid and should be a part of our records. Since this is a point-scoring championship, the athlete should be awarded 1 point, which is the standard allocation for 8th place in the final. We regret the circumstances leading to this outcome. We apologize to Calabar High School and Jamal Stephenson for the distress or inconvenience caused by this situation. Sincerely, Anthony Davis, Competition Director / Meeting Manager. So that was the official communique from Mr. Davis. But your concern, Madam Principal, is that before or whilst the jury is deliberating, the race was allowed to be run.
Yes, our position is that there is negligence on the part of the officials. The responsibility rests with the meet officials, including the meet director, to ensure, and as I said in my communique to them, that they are to ensure that, they are aware that appeals are going on. The meet director, Mr. Davis, did indicate that no one told him that an appeal was in process. And of course, us trying to stop a race or ask them to hold a race is his prerogative. A race to be held at the championship is really his prerogative. That is only he can do that. But it is really inexcusable for us that it continued even though it was deliberating. It would appear as if no effort was made to ensure that there is certainty about the appeal that was lodged on behalf of our athlete. I am very concerned about that because, as I even said in subsequent communication, that what about other athletes who would not have this kind of mechanism behind them? What about a strong support system? Schools such as Calabar. What about those athletes? What about those schools who do not have this? Because we can look at this we may choose to look at this as because it's Calabar, etc., and all the narratives that may come behind it. But I think we have to, if we're being fair and if we're looking at the bigger picture, we have to look at the kind of message that this sends to athletes, and we are encouraging good sportsmanship and fairness. Yet in our own processes, we have to be careful that we are communicating the wrong thing.
Yes, let me bring Prince. Thank you very much. Let me bring President Wellington back in. President, you have the time when the jury handed down their decision. What time was that on Wednesday, the 26th of March? Do you know?
And so just, first of all, let me just make a few comments. The first time I personally became aware of anything at all happening was when I saw CORY on the field. And even at that time, I did not know what it was about. As a matter of fact, I heard what the incident was about the next morning by speaking with CORY. Right, so just by way of information. In terms of the timelines, the race was run at 5:55.
Which race?
Campus race.
The semi-final.
One of the semis, right?
Right.
It was run at 1:55. What I have seen, because when I spoke with CORY the Thursday morning, that is when I would start myself, Mrs. Monticello, trying to find out what is it that happened. We had no clue at all. But anyway, so this one at 7:55, 5:55, at 7:30.
Sorry, no. Go back first. 1:55, you said?
5:55.
5:55 for the semis.
Right. And 7:38, and the time on the what do you call it now, Olive? The referee's report for the disqualification was 7:38. The announcement was at 7. The disqualification took place at 7:50. The announcement at 7:51. Calabar timed they wrote 7:58 on their appeal. I think it was received by the Compliance Secretary at 8:06 or something like that. It was passed to the jury at 8:13 or somewhere thereabouts. And there's a ruling. A ruling was made at 8:48, I think. I'm yet to get information as to when that ruling was shared with the meet director. What I know, I don't think anybody in the stadium knew anytime that even CORY told me that it was his principal who informed him that the jury had ruled in their favor and the young man was reinstated. And I think that's what CORY was saying, that would have been late that night, certainly after he had left the stadium.
What time was the race? What time was the 100-meter finals race?
8:40, I think, or somewhere thereabouts.
And what time was the medal ceremony?
It was scheduled for, I think, 9 o'clock.
Okay. Can I say something now, Andre?
Certainly, Olive. Thank you very much, President Wellington. I'm going to come back to you, Olive, right after the break. We have to take a talking about the disqualification appeals process at the recently concluded Boys and Girls Championships this year. And we just got some important times from President Keith Wellington. 5:55 p.m. was the semifinals Class 1 boys 100 meters. 7:38 p.m. was the disqualification. The announcement of the disqualification was 7:51 p.m. So you see that's almost 2 hours after the race. 8:06 the appeal. 8:13 the jury of appeal deals with it. 8:48 they render a decision, but the race is run at 8:40. And the medal ceremony, when the competition ends or that event is concluded officially, you cannot do anything about it again, is 9. And so you can see questions that arise in relation to this timeline. Mrs. Olive McNaughton, feels events official. Go ahead for me, please.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Good evening to my fellow panelists. I'm wearing my hat as a general official, a technical official, World Athletics technical official. Okay, this year I worked as a field referee, and therefore most of the track events, I had no knowledge of what happened, and I stayed out of it because I was extremely embarrassed. I thought the integrity of the meet was eroded after the first day. And as I said to the head of the start, after I said, if you have the confidence in your SIS, that starter information system, show the reaction times, because we were having this excessive amount of false starts. So if you have the confidence in your system, then show it. And I gather they started to do that the next day. And then, because two things. The due process that Mr. Stephenson for the 100 meters semifinals, there's a process. The referee should have gotten the start referee should have ruled on it. The start referee or there's a group of track referees. They could also they usually look at that thing and make a decision. Then that goes to the jury. Once there's an incident that a jury, there's an appeal, no race should have been completed. So, I'm not sure where...
Just 1 second, Ali. Just 1 second. Remember, because we're talking about possible miscommunication, you can't leave out anybody. Remember, there's a competition secretary.
The competition secretary and the jury. So it goes to the competition secretary, then it goes to the jury.
That's the TIC, Technical Information Center.
The TIC then should have made should have said something. We have an appeal. And
yeah, should have brought it to the meeting manager.
Meet manager,
and
the jury,
yes.
All this race. And then the race was run even amidst the CORY Calabar indicating appeal. So the ceremonies also should never have been done with knowing that there is an appeal process in place. So that's my problem. There are several steps of due process that was not followed in this case. Okay? So, because this retroactive false start, as we have said before, first in the champs. I've been working at champs over 20 years. I've never seen it before. The only other time I saw something like this was at Carifta 3 years ago, where Prince from San Diego was disqualified retroactively. Mr. Oliver can tell me if he got his medal or not.
Gordon from Calabar, Ali.
No, I'm saying at Carifta that there was retroactive disqualification, and then
it was Gordon who learned on the plane.
Okay, so there was all this process of the hurdles. Why wasn't the due process followed? Why would we then have an announcement that Gordon was disqualified, Clark was disqualified, and as the old boys were saying, it's a tit for tat, it's war going on. So that should never have happened. We have a beautiful brand, we have a product that is priceless. I'm sorry we had to get to that point. So the other races, because I sat down and was watching the thing, and the reaction times were just totally inconsistent. And therefore, when the jury judged against the initial referee result, they then, at that point, you're bringing the integrity of the starter information system into question. Because you are now saying you run a race, the person finish, and then you're going back to now disqualify them. So at that point, the integrity of the SIS was gone. And then you had several disqualifications in hurdles. Why was that not stopped before it was announced? Why? I don't know. I don't have the records of when it's, but you announced the disqualification of Clark, then he has
All right, I have to give the final, thank you very much, Mrs. McNaughton, and we give the final word to President Wellington. President, will ISSA consider bringing in external officials or experts to oversee future championships events to reduce any perceptions of bias?
You know that we had a star coordinator who we invited from Barbados this year, right? We actually had somebody in the start era who is an international official, and that is something that for the last 3 years we have been doing, and we continue to look at how it is that we can improve our offerings. But I don't want to also to bring into question people's integrity just because they went to one school or the other. If that is the case, then we are in trouble in Jamaica. I think that we need the full story. We need to learn everything that there is to learn about what took place, and we need to take decisive action as to ensure that this doesn't happen again. Like I said, when people were quarreling about the track and whether or not it would be ready, I said that so it's too valuable a product for anybody to take a risk with it. I'm going to say no, with this what has happened, it's too valuable a product for us to not act decisively in ensuring that this never happens again.
All right, we have to leave it there, listeners. I want to thank my panelists this evening, John Leiber, attorney at law, Mr. Keith Wellington, president of ISSA, Ms. Sian Wilson, principal of Calabar High School, and Mrs. Olive McNaughton, who is a World Athletics official. Thanks to Donovan Dakers, I'm Andre Earl.